paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, yeah, it's downright refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And
I
yes,
don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason. I did for a high school psychology class, I wrote an essay on the use of binaural tracks in Pokemon Red and Green to make Lavender Town sound creepier than it was, and the resulting urban legend of kids killing themselves because of it.
This is like some Wet Dry World stuff. Mario 64 has the same kind of thing where a level was like famously creepy and haunted and all this stuff, and in large part the music plays a large role in that.
So one of my favorite video games of all time, Wario Land 4 for the GBA, there is a 52-minute video essay about the weird sound design in it and stuff like that, where it was a Game Boy Advance game with lyrics. It was the first one ever, where they just played all of the things in sequence. I linked it in the video, the voice text channel, and JJ's going to put it in the description, and all of our listeners, that is their homework, is to watch that video. Oh my god. It is Wario Land 4's music, A+. A++.
All right, and welcome into Brainstorm Brewery, everybody. It's going to be a bit of a different episode this week. Me, Cass, and DJ here, and we're going to start it off with this. This is less a statement, less a story, not even a rambling Corbin story, more of a question to you, our dear listeners who make this podcast possible at patreon.com/BSB, of course. Like many people in the world, I attempted to watch the Tyson-Jake Paul fight on Friday. I was at a Magic Draft weekend. I was with a bunch of friends. Why wouldn't we? Okay? Unlike a lot of people, I actually got to watch the fight because we went to Stream East instead of Netflix, and then we mirrored that to the TV so we could actually watch the fight instead of watching it buffer. It turns out that one of the people I'm watching the fight with is an amateur boxer who recently had a match and has another one upcoming in a few months. And he's looking for sponsors. And I said, what does that entail? And he said, I'll stitch your logo into my shorts. And I think that is a worthwhile expenditure of Brainstorm Brewery money. I put it on the table to you, the council.
I think we should negotiate for a forehead tattoo instead.
I think that if the Brainstorm Brewery logo shorts get blood on them in any capacity, we should frame them and have one of us hang it in our homes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. They look so sick. Like the logo too on the boxing shorts, the pink, and it looked good. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Let us know in the YouTube comments.
Put it in the same frame
anywhere else.
Put it in the same like room as your Pokemon.
Yeah,
sheets.
I got them over on the wall. I bought some lights to light them up even better. But I don't know. That's a nice. That'd be a sweet collectible. You could put it. DJ's just got a bunch of Pokemon in the back. It would fit well back there, DJ. The color scheme would fit in.
I have a lot of Jigglypuffs on that wall. I have one Ditto.
You got a big ass hole under those Jigglypuffs for a Brainstorm Brewery framed boxing shorts.
I do, yeah.
I've got a copy of NBA Jam 99.
Ooh, Cass has got a
Stadium.
Yeah, it's like Cass has a wall ready to be decorated right there. I'll say that.
And this whack Post Malone token that eBay sold at one point that I got in a collection.
Is it a zombie?
Hate this thing. Yeah, it's a zombie token. It says Zombie Post. I think it's serialized too. Yeah, it's 963 out of 999. Collectibles can just be things that you make up, apparently.
And I thought Wizards was bad with serialized stuff.
I don't know if you all watched the fight. It was a little sad, but also not sad.
That was this a thing that people knew was coming up?
Yeah, it's been a thing for a long time.
DJ, it had twice the viewership of the most viewed Super Bowl ever, from what I read.
What? I mean,
well,
I know,
it's
Mike
streaming.
One of the most famous people in the world.
It's streaming.
It's streaming, so it's different.
Yeah.
But
listen, it broke the internet. I've never seen Netflix broken. Social media blew up as soon as the broadcast went live. Not the actual Tyson Paul fight, which was like 4 hours after the broadcast or whatever, but immediately people started posting about Netflix going down. It was crazy. So the thing is, Jake Paul, for the people who don't know, is some YouTube asshole or whatever. Everyone in the world wanted to see him get murdered. He started his boxing career by doing exhibition matches against like Nate Robinson, who was like famous for being a short NBA player, right? And he was like 45 or whatever, and Jake Paul boxed him or whatever. At some point along the way, Jake Paul actually went and started doing real boxing matches. And yeah, they're probably against, not Tyson, like not old men, but he's like 10-1. He lost the fight, but he's getting in the ring. It took real sanctioned matches, right? That's the important part, not exhibition matches.
No proxies allowed.
Yeah, everyone wanted to see Tyson kill him, but Father Time is undefeated. Except
it would
by
have been
LeBron.
really funny. Would have been really funny if Jake Paul died.
Well, Mike Tyson posted that after the fight, Mike Tyson posted that, quote, he almost died in June and had to receive blood transfusions just to survive. And his whole goal was just to live so he could get to the match and his kids could see him in the ring. Apparently, he's very chill in his old age about just like, he says, I'm just here passing through. I don't give a shit about my legacy or that's just ego. I'm just here so my kids can see me. So it's pretty cool, right?
Can we talk about how his son was interviewing him in the locker room and then he turned around and started walking away and the cameraman didn't follow and his bare cheeks were just fully out?
That was incredible.
Dude,
have you seen that clip, DJ?
Up.
I have, yeah.
It's
I've seen memed versions of it, yes.
So I was saying this fight, I think, is the biggest cultural, like it's the biggest fight since like Pacquiao Mayweather, I think. And most people probably don't even know that. So
I just learned about this fight existing like Friday afternoon. I am that culturally devoid.
Good for you. Apparently. Well, when Jake Paul was fighting like Nate Robinson type people, everyone was like, yeah, he should fight Tyson. And it happened. But it just proves that anything is as real as anything else. Because Jake Paul started on YouTube and then he broke Netflix by boxing Tyson, right? And we started our
really funny if he like the bell rings and he like reaches into his pocket somehow with his glove, pulls out his phone, turns around, is like, "What's up, YouTube? I am right here with my boy Mike. We about to have a little tussle." Like
he did a little controversial bow at the end of the fight because listen, Mike Tyson's 58 years old. He's got a bad knee. He was very clear his goal was to just survive, and Jake Paul could have knocked him out in the last few rounds. He could have. He was a peak. He's 27 years old, man. Like, that's literally your peak physical age. Okay, it is
30 years is a lot of years.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, but anyway, I mean, I've said that this is what the point is. Like, we started our silly little podcast 12 years ago, and here we are. People listen, they go to patreon.com/BSB, support us. We get to keep podcasting. I think this was the biggest cultural event, though, that I've seen since the pandemic. I'm going to throw that down. That was the gauntlet I was leading up to throwing here. I don't know if anyone has, a contender. They can let us know in the YouTube comments.
I mean, January 6th.
That's politics doesn't count. You can say the election, right? Like, I said cultural for a reason, not political. That's I mean, look, obviously the answer is the election, man. Like, that's so that's not fair.
I'm trying to think of like other cultural.
Someone said the Kendrick stuff, whatever. I don't actually follow that stuff as well, but someone suggested that was a huge deal.
So like I think we're like trying to hone in on this idea of something large and televised. Like that's kind of what I'm getting.
I was kind of thinking just like my mom was talking about the Tyson Jake Paul fight. My 25-year-old friends were talking about the Tyson Jake Paul fight.
Yeah.
The high schoolers are talking about the Tyson Jake Paul fight. I
think the Haktua girl is a bigger cultural moment than this. If I'm being honest.
I was gonna say we're coming up on the 1 year of Henry Kissinger's death.
Oh, God.
No one knows who your Kissinger is.
Rest in piss.
What a day to celebrate, though.
Mm-hmm. The day the Queen died was also pretty iconic. I wound up at an Irish pub that night. That was a good time.
The day the Queen died.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to think if there's any but no TV shows. No one cares about that stuff to the same level as this sort of thing. It just crossed all lines because it had YouTube, it had the sports people, it had the people who remember Tyson. It was everything. But for those who were just doing Magic, there was also some stuff that happened. Marvel Secret Lairs happened, as a matter of fact. Some of you might have gotten abundant Groots. And if you did, some people on the internet are upset because they didn't like that these were print to supply, I guess, whatever the term is.
Limited supply print run would be.
Yeah, rather than print to demand. So they couldn't just print as many of them. And then some of them had these bonus Groot cards, which are, I really just feels like at this point, that's actually selling a booster pack. But whatever, I guess. And of course, the big hubbub is that they sold out instantly and that people waited hours in line. But now they started getting them in. So with all of that now a few weeks in the past, what seems to be the reception that you all have seen?
So I had an interesting experience with my Secret Lair delivery, and I will try to segment this apart from UPS's fumble as much as possible because UPS and I have a
torrid history.
Yeah, but I went to go pick up my Marvel Lairs. They got sent to a UPS access point, which I keep telling them not to do, but whatever. Get there. And I get a very small box, like maybe this big. And I'm very confused, open it up, and it's just my Storm and Black Panther foil Lairs, nothing else. I double-checked the tracking number. The tracking number in that email has the packing slip or order confirmation or whatever, and it says you've ordered X amount of each of these, and those are not in there. And so I guess I just don't know what the definition of a bundle is because I thought that they were all supposed to arrive together.
Bundled, you mean?
And that was Thursday. That they all, or that part of my order, like 10% of my order was delivered. And I went to SCG Con, worked in Columbus, and then came back home last night. And it turns out that the rest of my order was delivered a few days later on Saturday. Also Emily had to go to the access point to pick it up because UPS just didn't bring it to the house. But it's just weird that like the level of margin you can get out of these can be really, really skewed by just a game of chance of did you get your order really early? Did you live near the distribution center that these were sent out from? Because you could have been one of the really lucky ones who was selling like the sealed Captain America Secret Lair on eBay for like $200 or something. But if you were like me in the position where you had to wait several days to get it over a week, then you've kind of missed the boat. And right now I think all of the Lairs have pretty much bottomed out for the moment.
Well, DJ, it sounds like you're doing what I think is a good thing here and suggesting that people don't sell something they don't have in hand.
I mean, sure.
Because like you could have conceivably people who bought them, right, could have just turned around and sold them and then waited 2 weeks to ship them on eBay or whatever, right?
At least on TCG Player, TCG next to all of the Secret Lairs does have this big red text when you are placing an order for that kind of product, and it says you're ordering something that has technically not released yet. The seller will ship it when they receive it, which could be anywhere from 1 to 10 weeks because that's the timeline we used to live on with Secret Lairs.
Understood.
And TCG hasn't updated it yet. Realistically, they should probably change it to like 2 to 3 weeks on that page. But like, so if you are a seller trying to pre-sell these, and I think the only time you should be selling these Marvel Lairs is like either pre-sale or wait 6 months. I think right this weekend is the worst possible time to sell them because everybody is just racing to the bottom on these. But if you are somebody who placed the order, got it in, and pre-sold it, then I think you did very well, for sure.
On the topic of the Marvel Secret Lairs, right after Vegas, we had a bunch of people come into the store and sell us the Doctor Strange counterspells, and we bought a number of them. We paid a pretty conservative number because we just like weren't sure where they'd land. As the Secret Lairs have started coming in, we've had people come in and be like, "Hey, we noticed you guys had these counterspells on your website. We'd like to pick one up because I want to put it with my Marvel cards that they already got."
Yeah.
Which means that these Marvel Secret Lairs are probably going to pop again when the actual set releases because it turns out when someone likes one thing in Marvel, they kind of like it all.
Yeah. We did get a Mark Rosewater announcement on Tumblr, too, that confirmed there is a plan to put the, for lack of a better term, character face cards in universes within skins.
Sure.
So we will get, like, a a Rick to
Sure.
Greymont, whatever his conversion is for Captain America. We will get a universes within version of Captain America, just like Ken Street Brawler to whatever the version was.
Gerard Capuchin, the first Avenger.
Yeah. So we will get some of those, which could potentially put a damper on like a really long-term hold, but I still think that anybody who bought these and is going to hold them for a few months should feel safe to do so, because who knows what the timeline on that is. I imagine that the licensing contract does give some amount of room to breathe until, like you said, the Marvel set comes out and the Spider-Man set, and we have this huge increase of, I didn't even know that Marvel thing came out 6 months ago. I'm a relatively new Magic player, or I was under a rock, or whatever. So, like, I do think that you will have a chance if you bought these layers and your delivery was messed up or weird like mine was. I think you have a chance to move them down the line for sure.
On the topic of Universes Beyond and new players, someone on... we usually run pre-releases during the week after pre-release weekend when we have extra kits. And on the Thursday of last week, someone in my shop mentioned that they were there learning to play Magic because they were getting ready for the Final Fantasy set coming out.
Yeah.
And we're going to see so much of that as we get into bigger and bigger IPs. Like, she was there just like to learn to play Magic, to be ready for the moment that she could purchase a Sephiroth card or whatever. And like, I think that's kind of sick.
Yeah.
Good for game stores. Bad for people who like Magic lore, but also like, who cares?
I mean, from the financial side, I've talked about this a lot on TCG Player over the last, I guess, year now. But you kind of have to pay attention to the cultural moments, and for lack of a better way of putting it. The Mike Tyson Jake Paul secret layer would have sold insane. Like, it just would have.
God.
You know, it would have.
Yeah.
But to the point, like when Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 2 came out, that's when all the showcase cards started spiking because people started looking at what was scarce from there. And when Fallout came out, we saw like everything is tracking to what's happening, and stuff like, say, Marvel. Well, when that Spider-Man movie comes out in 2026 and it's Tom Holland's last Spider-Man movie or whatever, it's going to spike Spider-Man again. Like, so this is the world that the Magic cards are financially going to live in.
Is there a Final Fantasy game coming out next year?
Don't know.
Because like
most
of the
D&D
Universes
ones
Beyond
are the
releases
same.
have been tied to real releases.
Mm-hmm.
Baldur's Gate was supposed to be tied to the release of the game, but then the game got delayed by a year and a half.
Right, and when the game did come out, it spiked all the cards. So it's crazy to think of Season 2 of Fallout being a very big financial moment for Magic, but it's going to be.
Ooh, Final Fantasy XIV is getting a big online update in 2025, so their MMO is getting a new expansion, basically.
Yeah, it just all ties together.
The cultural moments feels like a way to put it.
The Final Fantasy VII Part 3 remake, probably, too.
Sure.
The Final Fantasy VII remake was split into multiple parts.
Gotcha.
That makes no sense to me, but I don't know anything about Final Fantasy. I don't know why there's 14 of them and why people say 14 sucks and 12 is great or whatever, but it seems to me that's too many copies of a game. Like,
Corbin, do you like Pokemon?
Kinda.
Okay.
Yes, I like Pokemon.
Good talk.
I concede. All right, moving on. Speaking of all these cards that are going to be worth money, some of them are uncommons and commons, and that's why we play the game Breaking Bolt.
Breaking Bolt time. Breaking Bolt time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
We help you find your commons and uncommons that are worth money. You pull them out of your bulk. You exchange it for new cards or expensive cards or just cards you want more, or you just want to get the most money for the cards you don't have in your closet. And that's where
I have a very messed up one. I have a freak.
Oh God!
A really stupid one that is gonna blow your minds.
Neat. I'm also trolling with mine this week. Can't wait.
Well, mine's trolling, but it's also a troll that can net you like $13 if you play it right and you have the right setup for it. So, this is a green rare creature reprint from Arch Enemy Bolas 2017.
Green troll from Arch Enemy?
It's not a troll. Like, Corbin's just saying that I'm
Oh,
trolling.
okay.
But it is a green rare creature
From Arch Enemy.
Nico Bolas.
So it was
Guilt Leaf
previously
Archdruid or something in there.
Its original printing was like within the past couple years before that.
but he doesn't want to tell us because then we'll get it.
I'll tell you Battle for Zendikar. How about that? I'll give you. I'll put
It probably doesn't change that much for me.
Battle for Zendikar rare?
Yes. But only the Arch Enemy printing is wild, which is why I'm picking it.
It's got to have different art or something.
It
that or
doesn't.
it's just a data thing. Oh man.
It's a stupid data thing.
Converge. Is it a Converge card?
No.
Oh, is it Nissa's Pilgrimage, like the 6 mana, find 3 lands, gain life thing? Or
No,
draw cards,
but
maybe?
you're on the right track.
Zendikar Resurgent?
No, that is an Oath of the Gatewatch card. That is
fuck.
a lot. That is a reasonable amount of money in all versions.
So it doesn't cost green and 5 and draw 3 cards and put 3 lands into play?
No, it costs green, and 4, and it's a 5/5 trampler called Oran Reef Hydra.
Nope, didn't know that one.
Oh, wasn't that like a starter deck card for Battle for Zendikar 2?
It might have been, but so I was running my Roka while I was gone for Columbus, and then I get home, I check some of the Roka batches, and when I'm sorting by price, this was at the top, and I thought, oh, that's weird. It must be a misrecognition, because like every now and again the Roka will like act feisty and put like, oh, I thought this was a $40 card for like, oh, I thought this was a Volrath Stronghold, and then put it on top of the price sort pile, and then you just need to manually spot check it and be like, no, you silly goose, that's not a Volrath Stronghold. But it put Oran Reef Hydra from Arch Enemy on top of the price sort pile, and I was like, what are you doing? What is this? So I checked the CSV file. It was right. And because the Roka goes off market data, not low, TCG low for this card is 35 cents, and market price is $11. And I thought, oh, that's really weird. This is surely just like a one-of issue where like some silly person accidentally paid a bunch of money for the copy. If you go to the sales data on tcgplayer.com, like 10 people have paid $15 for this card in the past couple of months. So if you have specifically a near mint Arch Enemy version of this card and you are a direct seller, you can just be that kind of person, list it for $14, and it will probably sell within a couple days.
What if you... Go ahead.
The last part of that you cut me off from was just like, because Cart Optimizer or because Direct Premium, like, you are just capitalizing on the Hydra tribal builders who are going to put their deck into Architect or Moxfield or Mana Pool or whatever the heck the website's called, and they're going to click buy this deck, and they're going to look at the final number and be like, my budget was $300, this is $295, send it. And they're not going to check individual card prices, they are just buying the card. And the direct price, consistently for the past like couple weeks of this card, has been $14.94. That is the direct low that everyone is matching.
It's really funny.
I swear,
great data
I
find,
thought this
DJ.
was going to be just a bad data problem of like, oh, one person overpaid for it, whatever. No, it's like a lot of people, like people have spent like $300 on a small stack of Oran Reef Hydras.
The age in which we live, right? That's a real thing. That's a thing that a human would never make, but the data errors make it possible, and then people just roll with it.
And you know, this is the issue with thinking machines. Valerian Jihad now.
All right, I've got one that I've got more than one, to be honest. I've got a couple here. It's an uncommon from Foundation's Jumpstart. They are.
Is it just every anime card?
No.
Is it an angel?
Yes.
Is it a 2-mana angel? Is it like a 2-mana 2/1 whenever you cast an angel spell gets a counter or something?
Uh-huh.
What's that card called? Youthful Valkyrie?
Yes. It's also the card DJ said. It's also every other uncommon in the set. Realistically, there's like a dozen breaking bulks in Foundations, and some of them are very expensive. Foundations Jumpstart specifically. And that's just one I want to call attention to this week. If you're someone who gets any Jumpstart, I don't even know what the MSRP of the product is versus the EV of a box. I do know that some of them, and the anime stuff in particular, is extremely expensive. But for instance, there's just an uncommon in the set, Dionys Elvish Archdruid. It's $15. Like there's a $13 card, and yeah, these are going to come down or whatever. But there's a bunch of cards worth more than $1 at uncommon in the set. So something to keep in mind if you're looking to crack packs or whatever. If you see Jumpstart, be aware of that. All right, Cass, what are you looking at?
Is it just like a factor of people not opening Jumpstart, or stores just like not ordering it because it's historically been pretty bad?
I have to imagine it's both.
Yeah, Jumpstart's always had like a couple hyper expensive cards, like Allosaurus Shepherd, I think was one, right?
Yeah, but like
because like I think that the set is generally like tailored towards new players or what. I think it's a really small audience, right? And then I think that I think DJ like people kind of are just whatever on it, and stores are kind of whatever on it, but then they just happen to have some insane cards, and in this case,
historically,
they seem to have a lot of them.
Historically, Jumpstart as a whole has been very difficult to open from a labor standpoint because the packs literally have like 2 to 3 times as much wrapping, and the collation of the cards is weird. So when you're hand sorting, you have to like put things into several different piles.
That's a good point as well.
I mean, every
the end
product's
result
terrible to open nowadays in that regard, but you know. I got a cheeky little Wilds of Eldraine red common.
Is it a mouse?
No. Monstrous
Is it a 9-volt battery?
It's not a 9-volt battery.
Not Monstrous Rage?
It's not Monstrous Rage. Monstrous Rage is an uncommon. That card's like $4, and we've called it out before.
Yeah.
Bolt Wave?
Bolt Wave is in Foundations. That's also an uncommon.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the cards in some of the. Well, I knew that deck was newer.
This is a card that I pulled 4 copies out of my bulk today to play with a fun standard brew I'm working on. And quite frankly, if you wanted to get copies of this card now, and you wanted to buy a playset, it'd be tough to find a good bargain on them.
Huh.
I mean, that. Telling me the card has bargain should help Corbin, but not me.
Right.
But I'll tell Corbin that there was a clue in that.
Torch the Tower. I'm gonna go with Torch the Tower.
It is Torch the Tower.
Teamwork.
Card has a buy list price of 24 cents.
Nice.
1/4 for Shock with set mechanic. Notably, that card can be used to bargain to sacrifice your Demonic Pack, which is now legal in Standard. It can also sacrifice your Greed's Gambit, which is the second Demonic Pack that you're allowed to play from the Big Score.
Ooh, the Big Score sighting.
Was Torch the Tower also previewed on 9/11? Because that would be really funny.
Oh my god.
I don't think it was, but
for people who are unaware, somehow this is true. The card Trapped in the Tower was previewed on 9/11. It's actually worse than Torch the Tower, to be honest. I can't believe that happened.
I forget this information regularly, and then I relearn it, and it's like Christmas morning all over again.
It's insane every time, right? Like, and it's like
somebody lost their job over that for sure.
It's like a common. It's a common pacifism, you guys. Like,
do that on any other day. It's not urgent.
Oh my god. Oh man. Okay. Yes, that's a great piece of magic lore that takes me back.
Burn spells can't melt steel beams.
Oh gosh. Well, and you know what? You wherever you get your burn spells and whatever you plan to do with them, honestly, you burn out whatever you want with those. In Standard, there's lots of good targets. You can find all of these cards at MTGstocks.com. We've talked about a lot of cards here that are kind of surprisingly worth money, and the best place to find that information, besides this podcast, is MTGstocks.com, where you can look at every set, the prices by common, rare, uncommon, whatever you want. You can look at the weekly winners. And if you check out the premium side of the website, you can even check out the monthly winners to see those longer term trends. We use MTG stocks every single week. Honestly, I use it multiple times a week to work on content. Best website out there for Magic financial information. Please check it out and support the good people over there. Also on the premium side of the website right now is a Black Friday deal. Yes, Thanksgiving is somehow right around the corner. This year it's been a year, that's for sure, and it's almost over. And if you want to celebrate the end of the year with some MTG Stocks Premium, 25% off. Check that out now because that's a great deal. Get in on that.
Promo code Black Friday.
Promo code Black Friday.
And you can get a little bit more spice in using that promo code because you have the lack of emotional baggage knowing that MTG Stocks is made by a European developer who's just like using that promo code Black Friday and like just be an American. Just add that little bit of American spice to that website.
Let's talk about Standard. So I played an RCQ over the weekend. I played Domain with most of the cards that go in the deck, and then some cards that don't. It was a 17-person event. I got the round 1 bye. Round 2, I played against a Pro Tour champion, who I defeated. Proceeded to lose twice to blue-black mid-range, because that matchup is gotta be unwinnable. Beat another mono-red player, and then lost to one of the blue-black players again in top 8. Overall, 2-3 on the day in actual matches played. $40 entry fee got me $18 in store credit. A classic. Multiple times during the tournament, someone had to ask, is that card actually standard legal because of the starter kit? I played Fumigate, and somebody played... so somebody called a judge over against his opponent's 1 untapped blue mana asking, are the cards Spell Pierce or Dispel standard legal? We had to have a judge tell a player that if you don't know how much damage you're dealing, I can't do that math for you. And that is to say that Tournament Magic is back, and Standard is amazing.
Standard is certainly amazing. Tournament Magic is back. I like Todd Anderson's tweet that was like, let me go get it real quick so I don't misquote it. But I thought it was a really good way of, summarizing where maybe Magic is at heading into 2025, right? All right, here we go. It says, put away your Commander decks, sell your foils, single sleeve, buy a Standard deck, shuffle it until the center's crease, go to F&M, drive to an RCQ with a friend you haven't seen in a year. Love Magic. Maybe that's where we're at in 2025. Commander certainly tends to lead to a lot of drama, right?
I keep thinking about how much I want to put 75 cards in a backpack, put 2 days change of clothes, and hop on a flight to some city I don't like to see my favorite people in the world. Like in 2019, week over week, month over month, my friends and I developed inside jokes, and we only saw each other at tournaments. You know, we'd roll up to someone and be like, yo, you got a chippy boosty. Like, no one knows what those words mean. But we saw each other like every 3 weeks for a year.
We lived in a society.
Right. I used to have favorite airport lounges. I used to have opinions about Standard and Modern. I had plans for the Hogak matchup. And you know what? It was simpler. Nowadays, I'm like, well, I wonder if I have enough cards for my 7-point Highlander serialized in Universes Beyond. Just play some Standard. 75 cards. None of this companion. Tap out for a Wrath of God. Your opponent casts the thing that protects the creatures, and you die on the crackback. That is what Magic is about.
We have Llanowar Elves and Day of Judgment. We have Returned to Monkey. We have
Returned to Monkey.
I found speaking of Day of Judgment, someone did play the card Split Up against me.
Yeah.
Anyone know what that one does? That's insane.
Card is really good, and there was actually a really sick moment on Worlds coverage where a player makes an attack that is fully respecting Split Up. Opponent just doesn't have it, and then 2 turns later gets punished for missing those 2 points of damage.
Yeah, but yeah, Split Up's wild. For people who don't know, it taps or it destroys all tapped creatures or untapped creatures. Which, in Commander, maybe then it's kind of whatever, right? It's kind of, you're going to get some, but in Standard or whatever, you're going to just it's like a one-sided board wipe when you're playing creature mirrors, right? It's crazy powerful. But there's a lot going on in Standard. Last weekend, there was Standard, the SCG Con Standard 10K in Columbus. So the mirror, the finals was a mirror between mono white tokens. That's a deck that didn't even top 8 worlds a few weeks ago. So if that shows you anything about how much diversity there is in standard, you've got a finals this week that's a mirror between 2 decks that a month ago didn't even make the top 8, or very many people even played at worlds. Mono red aggro, Dimir midrange, 2-3 actually Golgari midrange decks, and a Jeskai Convoke deck in the hands of Ross Merriam, making the top 8 there. And yeah, there's a lot of different stuff. You're talking about playing Wraths. Other people are playing things like Resolute Reinforcements, Novice Inspector, which is just, your the old classic. There's some pretty sweet stuff going on. That is for sure. Like, everyone says, it is kind of interesting. Standard's like in such a good spot right now. It does feel really simple to just pick it up and play. You can play mono red burn, literally. There's so much you can do in the format. And there is a lot going on with Commander, right? It becomes hard to learn, becomes hard to onboard players to. It's complicated, and frankly, there's a lot of drama involved in I don't know if drama is the right word, right? Like, what are you supposed to do when you're not talking about new deck innovations all day, right? You end up talking about social rules, and you end up arguing about social rules instead of just talking about Magic.
Commander is a social game largely marketed to people who are not particularly social. Like, the most antisocial people play Commander.
Well, the most
actually, something the most antisocial people play Old School. The second most antisocial people play Commander.
Yeah, I was just the Magic community obviously attracts a certain type of people, and Commander's also nice because it does give you some guidelines, ways to socially interact, right? So there's actually some value to it in that sense. But yes, it's very refreshing sometimes to just talk about how does mono red aggro match up against mono white tokens, and I think that's why Foundations is doing so well right now and is so popular, because it's simple, right? And I don't mean that in a negative way. It's just straightforward. It reminds people what they love about classic Magic. You can cast Overrun and Limited, and it seems like it really is going to do a good job of onboarding all of these Universes Beyond Commander players, or at least a portion of them, into playing Standard. So on the topic of this, Cass, I know you're somebody who obviously, for people who don't know, Cass has an extensive tournament history, including in the last few years, a lot of legacy experience, but as she mentioned, also playing Standard. And we just kind of wanted to dive into, while we have a bit of a off week this week in terms of major Magic news, what your process looks like these days when you're approaching Standard, or really building for any format.
So I have sort of what I think it's an unconventional approach, but it's worked very well for me, where I figure out which tournament I'm going to play, and then I have a thesis for the format for that tournament. For example, right now, my beginning stages of my workings for Standard are the decks that are doing well are the decks that require your opponent's removal to be contextually correct. Decks like Mono Red, where your opponent, if they draw their 3-mana removal spells, they die. If the blue-black flash deck, if your opponent draws too many temporary lockdowns, they die because your creatures will have flash and you're getting value off of them before they even get to play their removal. The green-black mid-range deck, you're requiring your opponent to have things that kill 6/6s for 4, but also your 3/3 for 3 that generates value. You're both playing things that accrue value and things that end the game, and so it just requires people's interaction to line up correctly. And so if that's the case, the option is to play the deck that leans into that the hardest, or that can line up its removal the best. And if that's my thesis, I can work from there, and every deck I try can operate under that paradigm, and as I go, I can kind of check in and be like, is this still the way I think Standard functions? If so, great, we can keep working on that process. If not, what is the next thing to add to it? I actually used this process fully for my testing for Eternal Weekend this year. And the day before I submitted my deck list, I always submit my deck list a week early. Mm-hmm. My testing partner and I sat down, laid out our 75s, and grilled each other about the card choices and the deck choices. And we had to defend our reasonings for things under the paradigm that we had basically dictated with our thesis of...
If you can't, the card gets ripped up.
Not that far off. He was very close to ripping up a card in his sideboard that he hated, that we just kind of realized was not good. But I think forcing yourself to have forcing yourself to have something to be contemplative about, and not just well, this card feels good, or my 15th sideboard card can be whatever.
Yeah. No, that you're absolutely right. Like the thing that the pros, I say the pros, like a common piece of feedback from Pro Tour testing teams, is that they decide, like you're saying, you call it a thesis statement, like they decide that something is true about the format, right? If that involves deciding what the best deck is or what they think the most popular deck will be, then everything that follows that considers that context, right? So at some point, it doesn't matter if X deck is better than other decks if you think everyone's going to be playing or you think the most people are going to be playing this. For instance, at Worlds, a lot of the teams ended up on different decks. In fact, almost all the teams did. But only one team ended up on the Gruul aggro deck, which was, in fact, the most popular, powerful deck in Standard at the time by like not a particularly close margin going into the event. That was sort of enemy number one, public enemy number one. So that was the statement for teams going in. Our deck has to be able to beat red, period. Then we will worry about the other matchups. And then only one team ended up on, we're just going to play red and make them have it. And we're going to play the version that can kill you on turn 3, or at least parts of it. Because if everyone is expecting the grindy version of the deck, because that's what they're testing to show, no, we're just actually going to do it. So someone has to call the thesis statement, too.
Right.
Anyway, and I think that's what makes competitive Magic so interesting and fun week in and week out. I love sitting there and grilling each other on your 75. That is an incredible practice.
I think sort of the core conceit of all of this is you have to be intentional in your testing. You can't just vibes things out if you actually want to end up with a good deck.
There's a very big difference between playing to have fun and playing to win and playing to learn.
Yeah,
right. Well, that's the thing is like if you have a bad thesis and your testing takes you to a place that causes you to do terrible in the tournament, that's not necessarily like, obviously it sucks you did poorly in the tournament, but you can then take everything you learned from that and apply it to the next one.
Yeah.
To quote some good industry knowledge in addition to competitive gaming knowledge is that life is one long session and every decision you make is just the pathway to the next one.
Yeah. Well, this is something that I encountered obviously back when I was grinding competitive Magic more before I had kids that I spent all my time with, right? Is you recognize pretty quickly if you're a competitive Magic player who has it and who doesn't. And I don't mean this person's naturally gifted at Magic or whatever, but people want to, people who think they're getting better or getting good at Magic, they want to talk about their match after, right? And when you tell, like, when you have the first time of conversation where you explain to them what they probably could have done differently to play around such and such, it would have been better or whatever, and then they immediately hit you with, yeah, but it doesn't matter anyway, I just drew bad or whatever, and walk off or whatever. It's like, okay, I'm done offering you advice forever now. Yep. I see how your brain interacts with this game. You are not play testing to get better at Magic. You are just playing the game. And that's fine, but I'm not going to spend my energy on that,
To be someone who is a competitive player who, 1, excels, and 2, actually enjoys the process, you have to accept that your goal is not always to win. It is to just do better than you did last time. It is to learn something. And sometimes you have games of Magic where you make a horrible mistake and afterwards you feel incredibly stupid. But at the same time, like, how did you make that mistake? Like, why did you cast your Brainstorm into a Narset? Right? I ask myself that all the time.
Yeah,
and there is something to that. Like, maybe I don't cast that Brainstorm into that Narset if I am more dialed in, if I slept more the night before, if I ate better, if I had played something different 4 turns earlier in the game. And I think that desire to be introspective in that is what it takes. Like, that is what I mean when I say, like, someone has it. They have that drive. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with not having that. Competitive Magic can still be super fun if you're just vibing. But I think
I play
the next
TFT.
level comes when you have that drive.
Right. Like, for me, I like to play Magic fairly competitively. And when someone tells me after a match, if you had done, like, I love to talk about lines and figure out what would have been better. And, it doesn't matter anyway, or a similar type language is like, just doesn't enter the vocabulary, because that means you're being outcome driven rather than process driven, right? You're tying your choices to the outcome of that match rather than whether those were good choices to make. And that just tells me that you don't have it, right? And but hey, I play, say, TFT or something to have fun. I don't play that game to get better or to learn. I like to play a handful a month or something, right? Maybe a few dozen over the course of a 3-month season, right? I'm just playing to have fun, right? When I play Magic and I'm drafting a set and like I hit Duskmore and I started kind of like, I hit like Diamond and started like kind of capping out and I was like doing fine, but I was not progressing at the rate I wanted. And so I took steps to get better, not just to play more drafts to have fun. I went and figured out what I was doing wrong, etc. So where your pick orders can change and so on. So no, I think that's huge. So Cass, when you look at what do you have coming up? So you obviously had Standard recently. Like, what's the next big event or format? Like, where are you excited with your energies in Magic right now?
I mean, I'm playing Eternal Weekend. I'm only playing the Legacy champs, and not to point to left bleachers and call my shot, but last year I got 4th place, 3rd place really, because my only 2 losses in the event were to 1st and 2nd. I'm looking to improve on that, obviously. I feel extremely dialed in. I feel like my deck choice is... I'm happy about my deck choice than I think most players are for this event. All Legacy decks feel kind of mediocre right now. The format's actually really well balanced. And I think that if I don't get 1st place at Eternal Weekend North American Legacy Champs this year, it'll mean I didn't try my hardest. And... I don't know. I feel very dialed in. I feel like I kind of got ice in my veins.
Ooh, I like this. When is it? For people who don't know, when is the event?
Next week.
This
weekend.
This weekend.
The podcast will be releasing the day before I play my first match on my road to being the champion.
So if you're listening to this in your car or in your headphones at home, or you are watching on YouTube, youtube.com/Brainstorm Brewery. And you're listening to it within the first 48 hours, go check out Eternal Weekend. What is, Cass, can you share, what is the thesis statement for Legacy?
The thesis for Legacy right now is that it is extremely difficult to find any edge in the blue-black soup matchups.
Yeah.
It is that there has to be something in your deck if you're playing those to get a meaningful edge, whether it is trying to not draw your opponent with Entomb, playing the card up the beanstalk, or going really deep on things like Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. Additionally, the other sort of axis of the format is the Stompy decks that are all cheating on mana, and the card Vexing Bauble in particular. And so if you are doing something on the blue side, you have to be ready for Vexing Bauble. If you are not, you have to be maximizing the fact that you can shut off your opponent's free interaction. And sort of the other boogeyman in the room is this Nadu deck that I don't know if it's good, but it does win a lot. And
I was looking at those lists, I was looking at Elves lists in particular with the new card from Jumpstart, which, by the way, the Dionys Elvish Archdruid, it's a 3/3 for 4. When it says Elves you control have, whenever this creature becomes tapped during your turn, untap and put a counter on it. This ability triggers once each turn. So, oh yeah, no, it's fully nutty. If you can find a way to reset the Archdruid, you just easily, obviously, go infinite. Right, so it's why it's a $15 card. But so I was looking at Legacy Elves, trying to figure out if this would fit or whatever, and I saw that looking at Legacy Elves decks, a lot of them are just they're just Nadu decks.
Yep.
Yeah.
The only Cradle deck in Legacy right now really is the Newton style Cradle control with Wide of the Reliquary. But sort of my thesis for Legacy is that I want to. If I am playing a blue deck, I want it to have one of the things that gives me an edge in the blue mirrors. I need to have a strong plan for the Vexing Bauble Stompy decks, and I need to have a plan for Nadu, whatever that is. Specifically, the fact that the Nadu deck has the combination of Delighted Halfling and Teferi to make the blue deck struggle, and then Swords to Plowshares and a proactive combo to make the Stompy deck struggle. And then there's obviously a bunch of stuff in the Ephemera. Legacy is such a big format that doing something powerful and proactive means that you can actually win the random matchups where you catch a stray and you pair into Storm because you're doing something good instead of dirtling around and trying to Nick Fit into Arena Rector or whatever people like to do. And I don't mind sharing what I'm playing because the podcast won't really release until Friday, and it's also like, who cares? I wound up back on Bug Up the Beanstalk, the Sultai Beans deck. Up the Beanstalk is the only card that I found that actually meaningfully breaks the blue mirrors. I think that although I have some tough matchups in the Stompy and Nadu arenas, that I have plans for them that I'm comfortable with, and I think that I'm happy enough with my card choices and my deck selection Whereas most people I know are just like, yep, I'm registering Nadu and I hate it. So can't be too upset.
It can't be better than last year when people were trying to play the Lord of the Rings divination, right?
The
What do you
Sauron's
mean?
Ransom.
Yeah.
Oh, the ring Tim's you.
I remember
That
that
card
was a
was
thing in
cool.
the Delver decks for a minute.
That card was cool.
That card was cool. I know that the best finishing Delver deck last year did not play it. I know that because my testing partner is the one who was playing it, who got second. And he thinks that card is cool but sneaky.
Yeah, I forgot about that card.
Yeah.
Cards
It
you
is
should
weird
not
to have.
Sorry, go ahead.
It is weird to be going into an Eternal weekend where like the blue black like the Grixis Tempo deck isn't the best deck, right? It's super strange to be going into an Eternal weekend where that's the case. Like we're not playing a Lightning Bolt Delver deck for the first time in years, you know.
That's we'll make it more interesting to watch. I know that. Also some cards to watch. How about that? We've got some for you in the forms of pick of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
Brought to you every week here on Brainstorm Brewery, of course, via MTGstocks. But this is where we take the cards that we think are underpriced right now or just starting to tick up in price that we think have some room to grow. It's not a guessing game. It's just a game where we all make money.
Well, it's a
gonna
game because we're guessing which cards will go up.
Yeah, fair enough. Life's a game. I'm going to say Elder Fang Venom's going to go up because it's starting to go up. It's a Commander Kaldheim card. It's a 4-drop enchantment. Attacking elves you control have Death Touch. Whenever an elf you control dies, each opponent loses a life and you gain a life. It's slowly been ticking up over the course of this year. I mean, this is a few years old now. But for whatever reason, it's hit some new stuff and it's starting to spike. You can still find it for around $2.50, $3. But it's on its way up to $5. And it's not going to go crazy, but this is a card I wasn't even aware of that existed until someone played it against me over the weekend. And it's a sweet little elves card. It's got no reprints. It is solely in Commander Cult.
Wow.
Sure.
Speaking of cards with no reprints, my pick of the week this week is Sanctum of Ugin. That card just hasn't been in any of the Eldrazi Commander precons. Additionally,
did not know that.
It has been seeing a little bit of play in Aspiring Spike Metalwork Colossus Leyline Axe brews. You start the game with Leyline Axes that you serum powdered into, you play your Sanctum of Ugin, you cast your Metalwork Colossus, you sack the Sanctum of Ugin, get another one, and just play another one.
Funny. That's
I
funny.
love that so much.
This card was it was played for a while in different decks back in, gosh, probably even standard, but no reprints in 8 years is nuts.
Yep. Additionally, if you try and filter to playsets on TCG Player, the playset price is closer to like $8 to $10 for 4 copies. This is the kind of card that also sees play in everyone's casual Eldrazi Commander deck, and so it doesn't take a lot for it to pop.
All right, there you go. DJ, what are you looking at this week?
I'm looking at a stupid little 5th Dawn enchantment that also has no reprints. This is Artificer's Intuition.
Oh, yeah.
Card was a bulk rare for a very long time, slowly crept up to like $2, spiked really hard based on Neon Dynasty. I don't remember what the card was that spiked.
Containment Construct.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. And then it's just kind of like petered back down to its $1.50, $2 price. So it has equalized from where it was almost 3 years ago. And it's just a weird little 5th Dawn card that I think if they just need to print one more silly thing. And the the Wizards' desire to avoid reprinting it, like, where do you put this card? If you haven't put this in a product yet, where does it go?
I was unaware of this card, to be honest. This is powerful.
It's one of my favorite Magic cards of all time because it combines 2 of my actual favorite Magic cards, Survival of the Fittest and Trinket Mage.
Yeah.
Additionally, this card was the centerpiece of the Unhinged Greg Hatch deck tech for a deck that didn't actually fully work.
What?
Do you all not know this? Oh my god. Okay. On SCG coverage years and years and years ago, Nick Miller brought Greg Hatch to the sideboard for a deck tech. and Greg Hatch is explaining his combo, his like Salvage Titan Artificer's Intuition combo deck. And at some point he says, and every loop of the combo generates 1/3 of a mana. And Nick's like, I'm not sure I understand. Let me see if I can find it for you. It is truly one of the most unhinged deck techs of all time.
That's wild. We'll put it in here if we're able to find the clip. And if not, you probably won't hear this, people. But enjoy it.
Oh, I found it. It was the top result.
I'm not familiar with this either. I want to see this.
Oh my god. Sound up. Greg Hatch is a national treasure. It wasn't even on my radar. My radar's pretty large.
One of the top comments is, after watching this video every day for 2 years, I think I get how the deck works.
I think that the deck doesn't work is the actual thing.
How does he win?
I don't remember. I think that the combo generates like less than 1 mana per iteration though. Somehow.
Somehow.
It's truly just like a guy who's super excited about his brew. And Greg Hatch also was the person who did the Martyr of Frost thing on camera. With Sky Hussar in Legacy.
What are you talking about?
Greg Hatch was the person who played the card Martyr of Frost on turn 1 off of a basic island in Legacy, and then turn 2 played 2 more 1-mana blue creatures, and then on turn 3 forecasted a Sky Hussar to draw a card. In Legacy, won a match on camera with this. Oh my god. You two are fake Magic fans. Here we go.
I know about
Claim
forecasting,
that I was
but
a Magic fan.
I'm not an
Mono
SCG.
Blue Martyr.
Don't slur me.
Just skipped like halfway there. You got Niv Magus Elemental, Judge's Familiar in play, Scab Ruinator in the graveyard.
All right, I think that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As a reminder, you can check out our sponsors, MTGstocks, as well as Coalesce Apparel and Design. Use that gift code Brainstorm Brewery, get 5% off your order for our merch or the merch of any of your other favorite content creators on there, because there are many. We rock the Coalesce shirts regularly. Definitely go check that out. We appreciate all of you listening. We appreciate our patrons at patreon.com/BSB who genuinely and truly make this podcast possible. So, everybody, thanks for hanging out with us on Brainstorm Brewery. We'll see you next week.
Bye.